Hey adventurers, welcome to the crew. I'm Lord Genta, and this is my Let's Play of Pillars of Eternity. In the last episode, we visited Blood Sands, checked out the cult there, and we're now headed into Teir Evron to meet the gods. Alright, into the Temple of the Gods then. Twin Elms. Seems like it's sort of like not just a temple, but, you know, the temple or something. It seems like it's rather Hall of Stars. Rather significant. There's all the bookshelves. Also altars. Shattered and charred stone blocks the passage into sun and shadow. I see. Okay, I see exactly one altar. And a bunch of bookshelves. I wonder if some of these are these are all about the different gods. Wonder if we need to read them in order to learn how to commune properly with them. Possibly, yes. Alright, let's see here. Some of these we have read already. Let's see. Book of the Hunt. When my students ask to be taught the way of Gallowayne, I tell them they've already failed. Does one ask a deer to present itself as dinner? Of course not. One must outwit, outmaneuver, and overpower the deer if one dreams of venison. So it is with the Seeker God. To ask a question is weakness and idle indecision. To seek answers is to understand and to become one with Gallowayne. Survival begins with strength from within. But I only strike my students when they ask the second stupid question, for all of us begin young and weak. It is a point of fact and not one of shame, and a central tenet to Gallowayne's teachings. Perseverance and cleverness are prized by Gallowayne above brute force, a fact my young pups often forget. It's right and proper that the strong lead the weak, and it's equally proper that the strong be continually tested until the balance changes. Gallowayne celebrates the strength of the victor and the prowess of the well-fed predator, but above all, the clever hound celebrates the transformative nature of strength. Gallowayne's greatest desire for us is that prey becomes predator, meowing babes grow into strong hunters, and the lost find their own enlightenment. This philosophy is best exemplified by the rites of the Anamfatha of our Glanfath. When one of the Glanfathan spiritual leaders is old and nearing death, it's customary to enter the woods and confront Gallowayne's herald. If the Seeker God finds that Anamfath's life, deeds, and soul worthy, the reward is a quick death, and his soul joins Gallowayne's pack. If deemed unworthy, the Anamfath is killed, his soul forced to find its own way to the next life, and his memory erased from the records of the tribe. Survival begins with strength from within, and weak leaders endanger the whole pack. This is Gallowayne at his purest. Even at the end of life, one must struggle for worthiness, for greatness, just as one must struggle every day to feed his pack. The Seeker God is easy to understand if one actively engages in the quest for knowledge, but his secrets are self-occluding to those who merely ask, desiring knowledge about the requisite hunt. My own flesh and blood once asked me, "Will learning to hunt please Gallowayne?" I told him yes, but added, "Gallowayne would prefer that you hunt to learn." Okay. So Gallowayne is a struggle guy. This is Abaddon's book. We've read it before. I mean, he's the smith god, 100%. Honest labor, forthright service, ignorance into knowledge, errors into lessons, difficulties into triumphs. He forges stuff. Sermon of Struggle. Choice is a luxury we earn through peace. Struggle is our fundamental nature. Even when our war banners sit idle, mankind foments strife. Friends argue with fists, lovers kindle jealousies, merchants compete with lies. Wherever mankind goes, struggle follows. Magran is goddess of fire and war, not bloodshed and conquest, though many in Rayed Saris would tell it differently. How bitter they must be that Magran's priests were able to destroy a god made manifest. How bitter indeed. We who worship Magran are not adult barbarians or cloistered mystics. We're soldiers, armorers, watchmen and bodyguards, artisans of conflict and protectors of our families and flags. We do not salivate for battle, and we view war as unwelcome, but struggle is our fundamental nature. We do not pray for strife, we pray for the wisdom to resolve it quickly. We do not wish for war, but when it inevitably must be fought, we find divine ecstasy in discipline, efficiency, and excellence. Magran, guide us to the battle that is just and fair. Let us be your fire that burns away the profane, leaving only the righteous. If struggle is our fundamental nature, let victory be our inevitable state of grace. Okay. So, struggle is our fundamental nature, and fire and war. Midwife's memoirs. My mother lived every note of life's song. Bringing me into this world was her last verse. For this my father scorned me and abandoned me, and for this very same fact my town's midwife and adherent of Hylia raised me as her own. When I came of age, I learned that Hylia visits us on the screams of women in childbirth, and when a woman dies giving life to her child, her soul is carried away and reborn as an avian attendant of Hylia's court. Through the miracle of the Queen of Birds, my mother has been with me, watching over me my whole life. I wear the fetish charms of the Cloud Singer, the bird I dreamt my mother became. My feathery trinkets look gaudy and unbecoming, but it is a signifier to women in need that I am a trained midwife, blessed by Hylia, and living every note of life's song. The Queen of Birds wills us to shepherd new life into the world, and not, as the other gods so often desire, to end it. A follower of Magron once mocked my faith, saying I worshipped paintbrushes and birds, piddling things beneath the gods. I do not resent the other gods and the brutal necessities that they must oversee. But is not language, love, the arts, and creativity that which separates us from our simple beasts? Hylia allows us to rise above our savage, feral selves. I'm often amused that upon seeing our holy aviaries, visitors frequently ask, "This is nice, but where is the real temple of Hylia?" Perhaps they think hallowed ground requires oppressive stoneworks and ceilings that hide the sky. They do not realize the Bird Queen stands not on ceremony. She makes herself manifest in the music of birds and in beauty of the ubiquitous open sky. Hylia prefers the worship of 2 children singing over 1,000 petitioners silently praying for victory. The Sky Mother asks so little of us, and yet so much. We are charged to live every note of life's song. It surprises me how many fail to embrace this divine calling. Okay, so Hylia actually sounds pretty nice for a god, really. The queen that was and still is. This is the one about Woduka. I'm sure we've read this one. Vengeance, memory, and absolutely not breaking oaths. Like, absolutely not breaking oaths or rules. Final Journal of Jonas. Oh, this is Skeins. I read this one before, too, right? I think so. Basically, Skein is, the quiet slave, yes. Yeah, secrecy, breaking chains, that kind of thing. Very plotting kind of god. This is for the Hand Occult. Dearest brother, or was it sister, may this letter find you in well spirits. A man of thuggish bearing stormed into my library the other day and demanded that I help him find a book on the construction of an arquebus. I thought it proper service to Whale to steer this man toward an illuminated manuscript on the subject of whittling toy soldiers and other miniature props. Unamused by my solution, I shrugged and said, "What is an answer without a question?" He did not find my spiritual rhetoric helpful or amusing, and so he punched out 2 of my teeth. I trust your summer has been less tumultuous than mine. In more important news, my apprentice claims she saw the eyeless face in a dream the other night. I admit I was so mad with envy that at first I refused to believe her. Whale, forgive me for such a lapse of judgment. She described an Omoa of brilliant blue hues, with a featureless face surrounded by a swarm of eyes, no 2 eyes alike. She claims Whale ignored her questions, and she can't recall any specifics of what was said. In fact, my apprentice seems to have forgotten many things since before the visitation. She could not tell me where she grew up or what she liked to eat. At first I was so envious of her for having seen Whale with her own eyes, but it seems Whale's visit was to conceal, not to illuminate. I pray she endures this test of faith and can look back at the event and feel the joy of mystery. What is an answer without a question? Last week I felt the solution was ignorance, but after Whale's visit I feel a road without length is closer to the capturing of the ritual. Interesting. I worry my apprentice will look back at her visit from Whale and feel cheated, robbed of some moment of clarity we all thought we were owed when we first joined. I tried to tell her she was lucky, but she was too young to understand. What is an answer without a question? May I be dead and my soul scattered to the winds before anyone knows for certain. Right, Whale is like knowledge, but also somehow secrets. Like, doesn't like to share that knowledge too. Well, kind of. He runs the libraries, but also hides a lot of stuff. So, hard to pin him down exactly. How fitting that we know the god of cycles, doorways, mortality, and inevitability is Barath, while the Vailians know this very same god as Serono. For if nothing else, Barath teaches us that duality exists in all things. There is life in death and death in life. Embrace this duality, and you honor Barath. In the ruins of our Glanfath, Barath is depicted in the form of two semi-skeletal figures, one male, one female, Bunin Yankyu and Ankyue Bunin, literally life in death and death in life in the Glanfathan tongue. Male and female, inside and outside, life and death. We often think of Barath by imagining two sides of a coin or the two endpoints of a journey. It is said that Barath has the most petitioners of every god, and this is likely true. Who amongst us has not prayed for the cycle to hiccup? Who has not, in a moment of sadness, yelled at Barath to make an exception for our fallen loved ones? Barath may not rescue our loved ones, but it answers our prayers in its own divine way. Barath is the god that makes life end in death, and it is also the god that makes death end in life. Barath, Serono, Bunin Yankyu, Ankyue Bunin, whichever of the many names you prefer to use, deserves our prayers, for it has given us the promise of life's eternal renewal. Okay, so Barath oversees the proper turning of the cycle. 10 Years of Dawn. I'm sure I've read this one too. Eothas brings the dawn. I don't actually... farming, agriculture, and the dawn, right? Yeah. Also, he got kind of blown up, so it'd be a little weird if we could pray to him. He hasn't answered his followers in ages. Selected correspondences of Giftbringer Eden. Sing, O ocean waves, of Andra's sorrow, of her unrequited love for the unattainable moon. Sing of the ocean's sorrow, so that we may forget our own. Each day the tides reenact Andra's longing for the great moon. The waters reach out at high tide, yearning for the heavenly body, only to slump into low tide when the moon proves unattainable. You asked me once why I loved Andra so dearly, how I could go from a life on dry land to being a devotee to the goddess of the oceans. I speak of the ocean's sorrow so that I may forget my own. It is Andra's message that speaks to my heart. I've devoted my life to helping others discard painful memories, for that is the gift Andra gave me. When I lost my young daughter, my wife and I were inconsolable until the gift-bearer offered to take my toddler's toys and cast them into the deepest waters. Truth be told, I and the other gift-bearers I know have never even spoken to Andra. She's largely silent, and when she does speak, she uses floods and tidal waves instead of words. But we sing of the ocean's sorrow so that others may forget theirs. Andra's story, the story of desire unanswered, actually matters to people like you and me. Magrand cannot steer you to victory over sadness. Hylia cannot force joy down a crying throat. Only Andra can give us the strength to persevere when life seems without worth. And that is the answer to your question regarding why I love my goddess so dearly. Okay, so Andra is the ocean and also sorrow and memory. The enigmatic god of cold. Young students are often confused by Barath and Rimergon's seemingly overlapping roles in holding dominion over death. Barath oversees the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Rimergond oversees the cold, destructive act of death itself. This difference is often difficult for novices to appreciate until they've lost a loved one and endured the absence for a time. It's Barath that determines we will be reborn just as certainly as we will die, but Rimergond is the executioner's axe. Rimergond shows us that all life ends in stillness. Still a little confusing, actually, but Barath maintains the cycle. Rimergond is more like the actual Reaper, I guess. I need only show them the symbol of Rimergond, the bone-white aurochs skull found carved within the most ancient of Angwithan ruins. It's a symbol of death and doom in every culture. Any child with 4 winters under his belt needs no introduction to the ancient symbol. Rimergond embodies not just death, but all manifestations of collapse, be they famine, plague, or simple bad luck. Rimergond is a primal god, silent and inscrutable as death itself. He makes himself known with his passing, not by proclamation. There are innumerable stories of the god's terrifying passage to the lands of Yora. When the beast of winter stirs, bitter winds and beastly howling follow the creature's every move. Wherever the beast plants a hoof, all life withers into dust. The faithful of Rimergond insist that even another god's life can end in stillness. They claim the other gods must flee from the beast of winter's mastery over death, but we know not if this boast holds true. Though the beast of winter is shrouded in snowy clouds, those who've seen the shaggy white monster claim that the souls of the fallen can be seen clinging, or perhaps frozen to the beast's fur. The dwarves of the boreal south have numerous stories that tell a similar plot. A brash hero seeks out the beast of winter to rescue the souls trapped in its fur. These tales never end well, for even if the hero saves his beloved soul, the hero dies in the process. For it's not a proper tale of Rimmergond, unless the hero's life ends in stillness. Okay, so he's death and winter. I guess we have to use this altar here. I don't know if we can actually appeal to... Oh, no, that's just an address shard. How do I appeal to the gods, then? Oh, here. I see. That's quite something.
A divine contraption that I would dearly love to inspect.
Okay, so there's 6. Some of them maybe are working together, others apart. I don't know what each... I don't really know what all the symbols stand for either entirely. And why some of them are only those instead of those. There's actually only 4 that I can click on? Yeah. Nothing happens when you approach Wodika's shrine. Okay, Wodika stands alone. A piercing ring fills your ears as you near Whale's shrine. There's no other response. Okay, and that's Whale. That must be Rimmergond, actually. Because it's the death thing. And that's... Helia, I'm guessing? Bird? This would be... Galawain, Magron, and Abaddon? Probably? Or could that be Galawain? I don't actually know. This must be Andra. I don't really know, actually, who the other 2 would be then. Gotta look at my books, I guess. Rimmergond is the other one. Struggle, no, that's Magron. Whale is over there. Galawain. One of them could be Ethos, but I feel like... Okay, one of them has to be Barath. These aren't really sorted, so... this must be Andra. One of them is Barath. Maybe this one? Not sure. I feel like these could both be Galawain, but that means I'm missing one. One of them could be Eothas, although... Oh. Well, that's, Skane. Oh, and that's Rimmergond. Oh, this is Barath. That's Rimmergond. Okay. Well, this was a cheaty way to do it. I got most of them without cheating. Okay, so this was Hylia. This is Barath and not Rimmergond. And then over here we have Rimmergond, Andra, and Skane together, which seems like a really dark trio, actually, because that's death, sorrow, and, like, secret murders and plots. And over here we have Abaddon, Galawain, and Magron, who are pretty much all arguably war gods. I mean, Abaddon is smithing, which isn't exactly directly war, but it's pretty close. Well, let's talk to... Probably we can talk to all of them. Let's get the darkest ones out of the way first. I mean, Andra, the ocean god, is not evil, but... I don't know, I mean, it depends. If they're actually gods, you know, are elemental natures evil? Not necessarily, but it's a dark cluster over here. In the nearby constellation, you can make out the shape of a strange, horned beast. From time to time, you think you sense a faint chill emanating from the shrine itself. You kneel before the shrine and prepare to recite the ritual words. Ooh, hold on. Let's see here. No. Well, this is Andra's. All life ends in stillness. You feel a sudden gust of cold air as if the shrine were bursting into wintry life. The frigid wind cuts through you like a sharpened blade, and darkness encroaches upon the edges of your sight. You kneel and close your eyes. As you pray, the blackness fades to white and a howling wind fills your ears. The vision that slowly resolves itself is a broad, frozen plain. You see a procession of elves in the distance, periodically fading into and emerging from the whiteness. They trudge over snowbanks, their heads down against the driving winds. I know this place. This is the White that Wends. As they trek past you, one man bundled in furs turns his head. You headed for noon frost in the frost-hewn breach, too? Before you can answer, he's lumbered ahead. You follow the caravan, and in a couple minutes you come to a wall of ice. It disappears into the pale emptiness overhead and stretches as far as you can see in either direction. The elves stop in front of a mere smooth section that's framed like a temple door. It seems somehow thinner than the rest of the wall. You can't see what's on the other side, but a debilitating cold emanates from within. The elves pull pickaxes and shovels from their sealskin packs and begin hacking at the smooth ice, their implements flying through the air in swift, shining arcs. Though they throw their bodies into their labor, not one of them so much as scratches the polished ice. Yet with each blow, something bellows in the distance. Whatever that is, it's huge and angry. Scotty squints into the whiteout, and it's coming our way. Ader calls out to the elves. Hey, you might want to hold off on that. But that howling wind seems to swallow up his voice. Pelagina's head whips around to see where the bellowing is coming from. Forget about the elves. We need to be ready to move. She turns again to face you, flexing her hands in the cold air. Or fight. The elves back away, seemingly oblivious to the furious lowing, and to the tremors under your feet. The snow has risen to your knees. Your legs feel frozen in the drifts. I think we just wait. I think Remergon's about inevitability. You watch as the elves continue to work at the ice. They pay no heed to the rumbling roar or the numbing wind. Their movements, however, gradually slow. They labor at the ice with arduously sluggish movements until they finally freeze in place, some mid-swing and others preparing for the next blow. You touch the elf nearest to you, and he crumbles into a mound of snow. A final gale blows past, scattering the remains of the elves in a chaotic flurry. You notice a single spiderweb crack in the smooth barrier. It's the only thing that mars the perfect surface of the ice. Whatever's on the other side of the strange doorway, you feel it tugging at you. Only when you look back and see the parallel gashes trailing behind your legs in the snow do you realize how strong its pull is.
My end comes to all things in time. Seal the frost-hewn breach, and instruct the pilgrims in the patience of Remergond.
A deep whisper carries from the crack. As quiet as it is, it shakes the ground beneath your feet. Does plugging it with snow count? You fill your hand with snow and shove it into the crack. It hardens instantly, and a hoary rime grows over the smooth surface of the frozen doorway, fusing it with the rest of the wall. When you take your hand away, a perfect crystal of ice remains in your palm. As you examine the crystal, the vision around you fades, but the unmelting shard of ice remains in your hand. Is that it? Did I gain this approval or something? Oh no, I have a quest. Hold on. Earn divine favor, yes. Find Noonfrost in Twin Elms. Oh, it's part of a temple called Noonfrost. Okay, so it's not actually in the White that Wends. I can find it in Twin Elms. But I do have a vision to follow. Alright, let's talk to the others. Interesting that Andra and Skane are there, but it's Remergon doing all the talking. Well, let's talk to the other death god. Barath is the less evil one. In the glittering stars of the nearby constellation, you see the grim shape of a skull. Its jaws are open wide as if frozen in a silent scream. You kneel before the shrine and prepare to recite the ritual words. Let's see, that's Abaddon. That's... I think it's this one, to be clear, but, let's see. 4 is Hylia. 6 is Andra. 7 is Remergond. 8 is Skane. 9 is Whale. 10 is Wodika. 3 and 5. 5 is Magron. 3 is Galawain. 1 is Abaddon. So that's all of them, I think, yeah. Okay, there's life in death and death in life. Yes? There's a rippling shift in the air around you, as if some unfelt wind is changed, bringing unexpected warmth. You feel the peculiar weight of an unseen presence and of eyes upon you. You kneel and pray to Barath. Even while your eyes are closed, you see a road that seems to stretch on forever. The stars wheel overhead in a clockwork rotation of constellations, disappearing over the horizon to your left only to rise on your right. You try to make out the details on either side of the road, but your eyes can't seem to focus. One moment you think you see a meadow blanketed with mist and another sheer canyon walls. For just an instant you even see waves lapping at the edges of the road. Were you to step into the shifting landscape, you feel certain you would only end up back on the road. You know this is a vision, but the packed dirt feels firm beneath your feet and the night air cool on your face. You're walking. Your feet seem to carry you forward of their own accord. Something looms ahead of you. As you get closer, you see two stone figures that look strangely familiar. Bunini Anku and Anku Bunin, two of the oldest representatives of Barath. You remember the door to Cleobon Rilach and the two figures carved into the mountain next to it. One looks vaguely male, the other vaguely female. Only a thin layer of flesh covers their skeletal bodies, which twist to face the doorway between them. The doorway, however, is not what you saw in the ruins. It's a skull, gaping and jawless, and as you look on, its open mouth seems to grow. The arms of the two stone sculptures are swept toward the mouth, inviting you in. Okay. The road continues through the maw to another shifting landscape surrounded by stars. As you pass through it, you see an identical doorway in the distance. A dwarven man stands near it, unmoving. You turn and look behind you, only to see the skull gate you just passed facing you. An elven woman waits in the road. Like the dwarf, she stands still. I don't know. Keep going forward. You continue down the road toward him. He looks up as you approach, but you can't tell if he's looking at you or through you. His face is smooth but flaccid, as if the flesh is detached from the muscles underneath. As you look on, his face begins to change. Wrinkles crack at the corners of his eyes. His mouth sinks, carving deep lines from his nose to the corners of his lips. His jowls sag, and the loose flesh hangs like dough. He raises his cupped hands. They're covered in blood. He lifts them to his face and smears himself from his newly creased forehead to the wattles of his neck. As he massages the dark, sticky fluid into his skin, the fresh wrinkles disappear. The hanging folds recede, and his flesh tightens as if re-adhering to his skull. He lifts his head, and this time you know he's looking at you. His renewed face looks like a mask, artificially smooth and still. Behind it, his black eyes are two hungry pits, yawning like the empty mouths of skulls. Come, make your sacrifice to the Ethic Knoll. His body blocks the path. He extends a bloody hand toward you. I feel like attacking. Well, this isn't necessarily the god. I don't actually know that Barath would approve of that. It feels like that guy's using blood sacrifice to attain immortality. I don't feel like Barath is cool with that. You strike out and are surprised at how easily his flesh gives beneath your blow. It rips like dried canvas, following a long seam that begins at his arm and stretches the length of his body. Blood gushes forth in such quantities you can't imagine there was ever anything else in him. Sure enough, as the dwarf empties of blood, he collapses like a desiccated husk. The blood in the path gleams with 1,000 souls worth of essence. The essence evaporates, trailing shining filaments into the night sky. Only now that he is dead can you continue onward. The blood pools around your feet, and you look up and see the elven woman waiting further down the road. You start toward her. There's something unnatural about the way she stands. She's too still. When you get closer, you see that her legs taper into a slender trunk, and in place of her feet are gnarled, twisting roots. She lifts her face to an invisible sun. Her long golden hair is the color of autumn leaves, and as you look more closely, you realize her head is actually covered with tendrils and vines spreading brilliant yellow leaves. Each glimmers with the essence of an entire soul. She gives you a beatific smile. As you look on, the leaves slowly fall from her head and settle at her roots. They melt into the path beneath her, and almost immediately new leaves sprout in the place of the old. She reaches toward you, still smiling, as roots spring from her fingertips. Her outstretched arms bar the path. Oh, I didn't even... They both have lived for centuries, haven't they? The Golden Grove seems so much nicer than the other one, but... They're both defying Barath, aren't they? Take her down too? You swing at her, trying to knock her arm away from you. Yet as your blow connects, you feel her skin grow rigid and cold. Her outstretched arm petrifies, and as a rough stone bark overtakes her flesh, she can only look on in horror. Her feet are rooted in place, but she twists and writhes as if trying to flee her own dying limb. The petrification reaches her shoulder and spreads down her body, freezing it in a painful arc. It creeps up her neck, and she throws her face skyward like a drowning swimmer. The grayness covers her face, freezing her gasp in stone. Now that she's still and lifeless, you can continue past her. Only the golden leaves on her head remain untouched, and as you watch, they fall one by one to the path below. They shrivel as the shimmering essence fades from them. A voice echoes along the road, barely more than a whisper on the breeze. Return them to the wheel. You lift your gaze and see the skull gate ahead of you on the path. The candles of Teir Evron wink through the open mouth. Okay, I guess right there then. He's pissed about both of them being immortal, which makes sense. He's the god of the cycle of life and death. Probably you'd like me if I returned Theos to the wheel too, eh? Okay, Hylia. Probably the nicest one here. This shrine sits before a bright constellation, its stars forming the oval shape of an egg. A pair of wings sprout from the egg, stretching out to either side. Okay, that is what that is. It's actually hilarious that the flying egg is the fertility goddess's symbol. They've every note of life's song. Your words seem to ring in the air, your voice rendered melodic and lilting by some unseen art. You shut your eyes to pray. As you wait in darkness, the world around you changes. You feel sunlight, bright and warm, on your face. A light breeze carries music to your ears. As vivid as these sensations feel, you somehow know they are not real. You look around and find yourself standing in an open-air temple built on a mountain summit. It's filled with elves, orlans, and assorted other kith. Ringing the entire scene is a fringe of trees, their verdant branches filled with birds of all different colors, shapes, and sizes. Pelagina takes it all in with squinting eyes and a wry smile. And I'm supposed to feel at home here? Really? Too masculine. Everyone is singularly absorbed in a particular pursuit. An Orlan sits with a canvas, a paintbrush in his hand, and jars of green, blue, and yellow pigments at his feet. An elf and a Nomoa standing to the side are locked in conversation, their expressions dancing with delight. Still others scribble stanzas of poetry or crude sketches on sheafs of paper, losing themselves in the delicate minutiae of lines and syllables. You feel the breeze again, and two elves basking in the sunlight shiver. Look at this place. All these people, coming together to share their creations, and Kana frowns. What on earth is that painting supposed to be? The largest group gathers in the middle of the temple. They sing a lush, chaotic harmony composed of several complementary melodies. Others drift toward the singers in ones and twos as if buffeted by a gust of wind or a phrase of the song. A ripple passes through the trees. You think it's the wind, but the chirping changes to screeching. Hundreds of birds take to the skies, all headed in one direction. Away. Scunny raises her bow. Something must be coming. The devotees glance at the trees, just barely distracted from their activities. But the wind picks up, scattering their pages of poetry and art and ripping the songs from their lips. They look skyward, and you follow their gaze. A dark shape blocks out the sun. You can't tell what it is, but as it unfolds and expands, it seems to fill the sky. The wind roars over the summit. That explains the birds. Before you can flee, a shadow falls over the temple. It begins as a stain in the corner and spreads, blotting out the flagstones. It reaches the nearest kith, a black-furred Orlan. The darkness swallows her, leaving only a puff of smoke in her place. The two elves that you saw earlier, a man and a woman, flee. You get a brief image of them huddled in the shadow of a mountain. They seem to see you, too, and they reach out, calling silently after you. The others, however, seem frozen. As the shadow advances, they likewise vanish, one by one. The driving gale scatters their ashes and the charred remains of their creations. You look up again at the source of the shadow, but the eclipsed sun forms a blinding corona around the thing. You can't make out any details. You can, however, feel heat. Restore my temple. You look down and find yourself standing next to Hylia's shrine in Teir Evron. Your pulse still races and your skin is damp with sweat from your strange encounter. Straightforward enough, I suppose, except for the question of what kind of thing destroyed the temple. Okay, over here we've got Abaddon, Magron, and Galawain. Before this shrine sits the constellation of a snarling hound, fangs bar. This one is Magron and this one is Gallowayne, I think. Survival begins with strength from within. The air around you stirs and a gust of warm wind blows across the back of your neck. You catch the faintest smell of warm earth. Guess so. As you kneel in front of the shrine, you feel yourself pushed forward. You catch yourself on your hands and knees, feeling more damp ground beneath them. Looking around, you find yourself crouched in a clearing in the middle of the woods. The smell of dirt hangs heavy in the air. Behind you is a darkened room filled with candlelit shrines. Ahead, you hear the howl of some kind of hound. You feel certain this is a vision, but the hairs on the nape of your neck still rise. Let us howl back. The beast bays in response, its voice high and clear. The thick undergrowth shivers with movement, and heavy paws pound the wet grass. You're not certain if the creature is hunting or leading you, but you instinctively give chase. As you tumble through dew-speckled bushes and clawing brambles, each stride feels longer than the last. You draw lungfuls of crisp, clear air and feel your energy renewed. The rhythm of your stride and the thumping of the beast's paws drive the blood thrumming into your ears. You speed ahead, following the hound's cries, when a split-finger pine crashes to the ground in front of you. A massive bear lunges into the gap and roars. Catches sight of you. You turn and race in the opposite direction, leaping over the fallen tree trunk. Pine cones crunch underfoot. The bear lumbers after you. Its hot breath washes over the back of your neck, filling your nose with the rank odor of slaughter. You see a clearing just past a thicket of broadleaves and sprint toward it. As you break through the foliage, you see a massive lioness curled up in the clearing in front of you. With a last burst of energy, you divert your momentum and hurl yourself into the bushes. Any second now, you expect to feel the bear fall upon you, but a furious roar on the other side of the clearing draws your attention. The bear is stopped at the tree line. It swipes the empty air with claws large enough to rend armor, but it does not advance. The lioness, for her part, twists her body into a tight coil. She growls, her ears pressed against her head, but she makes no move to attack the intruder. Whose idea was it to stand here? You back deeper into the foliage, keeping your eyes on the two mighty predators. As you crawl backward, the heel of your hand brushes something furred. A warm sigh grazes your cheek. You freeze in place, slowly turning your head to see what waits behind you. Two amber eyes shine in the darkness. Perhaps we ought to take our chances with the bear. The eyes meet your gaze briefly, then turn to the standoff in the clearing. The hound behind you yawns, fangs flashing. When you turn back, the lion and the bear have disappeared. In their place is a stone wolf's maw, gaping wide enough to swallow you whole. Behind it, the outline of a temple, towering but indistinct. Blood must feed the maw, Watcher. See that a true champion reigns. Very unclear to me, but I guess there's a stone wolf's maw somewhere. Interesting. A lioness and a bear wait in deadlock. They face off but do not fight. It's a cave shaped like a wolf's maw in the temple district. Okay, I believe that's it, yeah? Yeah, there's no point in praying to them again, I don't think. So we got 4 gods to choose from. I mean, 2 of them are in alliances with others. Abaddon and Magron are backing Gallowayne. Skane and Andra are backing Rimmergond. Plus we've got Barath and Hylia. And they've all given us quests to do, which honestly we could probably do all of them, but I'm guessing we still have to pick. But I think we've done what we need to do in this temple. From now, maybe we'll head over to Old Song, and then I'm going to call it there. Alright, here's Old Song. There's Noonfrost.
I wonder, Aloth, don't you ever feel curious about Isilmir's history?
Not even a little.
But think of the opportunities. You could learn so much about the past.
There are some things I'm happy not knowing.
He's got a point, actually. Oh, Aloth wants a convo. Well, next time. Okay, well, I see already. There's Noonfrost, there's Galawain's Maw. That goes up. That might lead to... Okay, Hylia's Temple is up there. I thought I'd seen it on the map before. Through the Northfield. Was the Northfield where this was too? No, that's here. Hylia's Temple's up there. Those I know where to go, actually. They're quite conveniently close. Noonfrost. Okay, these two temples are both here. Hylia's is up there somewhere. Maybe those stairs lead there, I don't know. Those two are both back in the last district, actually. Okay, so that just leads to Hearthsong. So all that's really here in Old Song is 2 temples and 2 paths out. Maybe there's other stuff we'll walk around, but yeah. Anyway, however, we are going to go ahead and call it there for today. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all have a nice evening. This is Sea Lord Jenda, signing off.